Good morning. I'm David Rooney, publisher of the Revelstoke Current, and welcome to this abbreviated version of In Conversation, our regular discussion of politics with political figures. And today, again, with me is MLA Norm Macdonald. Norm, welcome. Nice to see you here.
Good to be with you, David.
Oh, God. Oh, I touched your hand. Oh, my God.
Oh, that's quite all right.
Watch it.
Well, this is years in the school system, so
Yeah.
David's got a problem with his eye. But
Yeah, it may or may not be pink eye. I hope it's not, but
yeah. But I'll
it's
watch.
irritating.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
There's a little bit of comedy at the beginning of this
Yeah.
short little production. And we're filming today at the Revelstoke Public Library. I'll give you
Yes.
a little video tour of the library at the end of this. But Norm, you're here in town to speak with the members of the Rotary Club at lunch
Yes.
today, and the subject, as I understand it, is truth. And makes this a particularly appropriate place to film this because libraries are in part about truth. But tell me, what kind of truth are we talking about? We're talking about political truths, I think.
Well, yes, and not to be too presumptuous, but just trying to lay out, just where we are in a number of areas that I think people that are attending the meeting are going to be interested in. So just what's happening fiscally with the province and with what's happening with BC Hydro, and also a discussion of what's happening with natural gas and the possibilities for liquefied natural gas. And what I'll try to do is just reference the source of what I'm talking about. I know within Rotary it's not really a place where it's appropriate to be talking about politics in the partisan sense, but I think there's room to have a discussion about what are some of the challenges and opportunities that are there for the province and the right way to go forward. And what's interesting about Rotary is Rotary has sort of a set of values that they state in a fairly simple way with 4 statements of value. One is around truth, as I understand it. One is around does it benefit everyone? Is it fair? These 4 fairly simple statements, and I think that we can talk about what's happening in political life and have it fit within that framework, which is what I hope to accomplish today.
Good.
And be interesting, hopefully.
Well, I find the search for truth is always interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's not always, I'm sure it can be pretty boring sometimes, but I've never had a dull day in 37 years, so
Yeah.
how bad can it be?
It is the one of the most important things that can happen, and certainly your life's work in the media is an important part of that search for truth. And I think that when the political system is working properly, there are things in place that help to provide truth to the public. So I'm with you. I think that's always interesting.
What kind of truths are you going to be discussing with more people today?
Well, I think there's the fiscal framing of where we are as a province. The reality is that we do have issues around the debt. It's growing. It will continue to grow over the next 2 or 3 years. We also have about $100 billion in contractual obligations, and that's not dissimilar to debt. So we're in a period where inevitably, and this would have been true whether it was the NDP or the current government, there's going to be constraints on the amount of money that's available from the provincial government unless there's a change in tax or fee structure, right? Mm-hmm. So what that means for us here in this area is that the health system is going to be put under increasing pressure. There's going to be moves to make cuts in areas that impact people's lives, and we have to make sure that the decisions that are made are good, thoughtful decisions, and that they align with the priorities not only of people here, but also the stated priorities of the provincial government.
Do you think the government is on top of that situation?
Well, I can point to a couple of areas where I think they have to be careful with health care. I don't think that they prepared the broader public for some of the cuts that are coming, and I think that they will find themselves increasingly under pressure when we start to feel what those cuts look like. And when I say cuts, it's a bit complicated in that the budgets will actually increase for the health authorities and for health care in general, but just not enough to meet the needs that the government and the system knows are coming. So it's kind of odd. You say cuts, but we're talking cuts in services, not necessarily cuts in money. I can give you one example, though, of a cut where we have in this area very good literacy programs, and the payoff to me as a teacher, I suppose, but I think as a parent too, if you do literacy well, especially at the early years, there is a massive benefit to that. And we have some good programs in place that are going to be facing some cuts. And we're talking about, a program that was $2.5 million for the whole province, going down to $1 million, and a program that was able to use that money to generate a further $6 million in investments. So a program that makes a lot of sense, is not really that costly in the big picture. We, of course, as the NDP, feel that literacy is important, but the BC Liberals and this government talk about how essential literacy is. So when a program like that is put under pressure, we want to make sure that you really thought this through. Is that a reasonable place to make a cut? Is that really what you want to do? And is there not places that it would make sense for the investment to continue? And certainly literacy would be one of those. So there's all sorts of those things that are going to take place that as a representative for this area, I need to be aware of, and then push the government to explain and maybe change its course if it's not in any way reasonable.
There hasn't been really a public discussion on this yet.
No, I don't know that the last election, and maybe all elections are like this, I don't know that the last election was a particularly good discussion on where we're going to go as a province. Like and I know that I share the blame in that as a participant, right? But it didn't feel like a particularly good discussion as to where we want to go. There's some complicated issues.
And there are. I mean, in the last election focused really on economics and job creation, and that was really the thrust of it. And we won't get into that because that's a completely different discussion. But cutting things like certain kinds of services in healthcare and in education, I mean, disturbs me to think that somebody would cut spending on literacy, especially early child development and literacy, because those are very important. But I can see why some other people might think that they can do that, because it's little kids, they don't vote, it's kind of a... It's their parents will teach them how to read. Well, fat chance, most parents aren't that involved with their kids that way.
So it's possible, it's a thought process like that. I also think what I've seen is where a government is desperate to make cuts. They make cuts in every program to a certain percentage, right? And there can be a lack of thought that goes on with the spending priorities that are there. Like it can be as well that these are decisions that are not consciously made. They're made at a higher level. The impacts aren't fully understood by government, and I think that surely as the opposition, part of our role is and a representative of this area is to really make sure that the implications of the decision are there in the face of government, and to try to change government direction where we can.
Have you spoken to the ministers in question here?
We of course are not sitting,
No,
so the opportunity to speak directly to ministers has been removed from us. That's a whole other issue. That's a problem. So we put these concerns in letters and emails. Now, and what I would say to people is you never know, both as the representative but as the broader public, what impact these have. But my experience has been that even by forcing the government and the minister to respond, you are having a certain impact. And I think as a representative from an area, we have enough evidence to show that we can get things changed if we make an effective argument. It is far easier for an opposition when the House is sitting, and I would argue that it's in the public interest for us to use the legislature properly, but it's not necessarily what the government wants.
No. In fact, I think a lot of governments would prefer to govern without being held accountable every day by an active opposition.
Yeah, and I think part of, now this is a crazy time with Rob Ford and with the Senate scandal and so much of what's going on in Canada. I think that the lesson we have to have is that the government always needs to be challenged in what it's doing. I mean, there's a certain amount of human nature that we can go in the wrong direction if there's not oversight and constant accountability foisted upon the powers that be. And the media has part of that role, and then opposition has another part, as well as the other structures that we put in place to make sure that money's spent wisely and decisions are good decisions. So that's a bit of the challenge of our time, but an engaged population is a key part of it.
That's right. Thank you very much, Mark.
Well, it's a pleasure.
Sure.
Thanks as always for the opportunity. Okay. Yeah,
It's
thanks
always
as
a
always
pleasure
for
to
the
have you on the
opportunity. Yeah, it's good to talk to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that concludes this abbreviated version of In Conversation, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching.
Well, thank you.